Thank you.
I know you want to hear from him. He's the man of the hour, a man whose extraordinary grace under pressure in the days since this devastating attack has led him to be called America's mayor.
From the ashes of 9/11, Rudy Giuliani's reputation soars to new heights. So what do you do when your popularity peaks? For Giuliani, he chooses to run for president.
This is the story of how Rudy Giuliani became one of America's most prominent politicians. And it's also the story of his fall from grace. How America's mayor lost out on being America's president. For years after his failed presidential bid, Giuliani vanished from the spotlight until his reappearance alongside President Donald Trump.
I'm Hope Talbot.
And I'm Vakil.
And this is Shoe Leather, an investigative podcast that digs up stories from New York City's past to find out how yesterday's news affects us today.
This season, we are taking a deep dive into the life and career of Rudy Giuliani, one of the most influential politicians in New York City's recent history. Before he went to work for President Donald Trump, before he was disbarred and bankrupt, before all the trouble, Giuliani rose to prominence as a prosecutor and a politician. We wanted to know, how did America's mayor end up going from presidential hopeful to participating in a lie that shook the foundations of American democracy? This is Shoe Leather Season 6, Giuliani, The Unraveling, and you're listening to our sixth and final episode, Rudy Gone Wild.
In this final episode, we follow Giuliani's choices after 9/11, fresh out of office as mayor, his failed presidential bid, and his decision to join President Trump. Deep and I are in an office block in Staten Island. We're with Matthew Mahoney. We're looking at photos from Mahoney's time working for Giuliani.
I see a couple of posters up here from the campaigns.
Oh, yeah.
The one photo where you're next to Rudy in the presser.
Yeah, it's 99 probably, 98. That was an early one.
Mahoney started working as an aide to Giuliani during his second term as mayor. He was an advance man. His job was to get to places before Giuliani did and make sure that things were all set before his boss arrived.
9/11 presented new challenges for both of them. Mahoney describes days filled with back-to-back funerals, where Giuliani wanted to mourn alongside the city's residents.
They were grueling, and they were nonstop, and everybody worked really, really hard.
Giuliani asks to see psychiatrists who specialize in trauma.
We sat with him, and he said, I don't always know what to say to people. I'm afraid I'm going to say the wrong thing, and I'm afraid I'm going to make things worse.
He even gathers old rivals, former mayors, to help guide him.
And he even brought in Mayor Dinkins, who they hated each other, Koch. He brought them all in to sit with him and say, what else should I be doing?
Giuliani's approval skyrockets. Just 6 weeks after the attack, his approval rating hits a high of 79%. Oprah dubs Giuliani America's mayor. Time magazine names him Person of the Year. A few months later, he's even knighted by the Queen of England.
I go back to Brooklyn and tell them I've been knighted. And ever ask them to refer to me as sir. Oh boy, something like this will happen. Hey, what's this stuff? What are you, some kind of big shot?
So when Giuliani's time as New York City's mayor ends on December 31st, 2001, he leaves a hero.
Thank you very, very much. Although I have to leave you as the mayor soon, I resume the much more honorable title of citizen. Citizen of New York and citizen of the United States.
As America's mayor steps away, Giuliani's fame is about to be met with fortune. Giuliani doesn't wait long to cash in on his fame. In fact, he doesn't wait at all.
Matthew Mahoney remembers the idea of a consulting business coming up a couple months before the end of Giuliani's term.
There were a couple of discussions that were very, very tight-knit.
During another phone interview, Mahoney tells us how he got a call from Giuliani's former chief of staff, who asks Mahoney,
"What are you doing when this is over?" He said, "Well, Rudy wants you to come work with him." I was like, "Awesome. What are we doing?" "Business." "Okay. What's the name of the company?" "Not yet." "Where's the office?" "Don't have one yet." "What's the name?" "We don't know yet." "Okay. What am I going to make?" "More than you make now." "I'm in."
They named the firm Giuliani Partners. It's a consulting business. Giuliani has connections in government that his wealthy clients would like to tap.
That's exactly what happens with Purdue Pharma, the drug maker. You've probably heard the name associated with being responsible for the opioid crisis. In the 2000s, the government is trying to hold the Sackler family, who owns Purdue Pharma, accountable. But Giuliani and his law firm get involved and help the Sacklers avoid jail time. On top of that, Giuliani's consulting firm helps the family navigate the PR fallout.
Look, you have a shelf life. And 9/11 resurrected him. He was in the political trash heap prior to that time.
That's Tom Davis. He's a 7-term Republican congressman from Northern Virginia. In 2002, he tells New York Magazine that Giuliani is the hottest political property in America today. Davis knows that because he's leading the fundraising arm of House Republicans.
But that's how I got to meet him, and we utilized him from there. I also got him some speaking gigs. He was charged $100,000 a speech after that, and I got him a couple speaking gigs, but everybody wanted to hear him.
The 2002 midterms come along, the first nationwide elections after 9/11. Giuliani's stardom becomes an asset.
Davis is a moderate Republican, and so is Giuliani at the time. And that makes him the perfect campaigner in swing districts.
They liked him there, but remember, his politics were a little more moderate than a lot of Republicans because he represented New York City. So, on some of these abortion and guns, these kind of issues and stuff like that, he wasn't waving the flag for these conservative groups because he had to be electable in New York. But in these swing districts, he was America's mayor. He led them from the ashes after 9/11. And so if you're a candidate looking for swing voters, which were the keys in these districts, Rudy Giuliani was the man.
The Republican Party has a blowout year in 2002. Not only do they flip the Senate that year, they also add more seats to their House majority.
Around that time, in November 2002, Giuliani is in Paris on a business trip. He asks Judith Nathan to marry him, his third marriage. They marry 6 months later, and among the attendees is Donald Trump.
I would like to introduce my wife, Mrs. Giuliani. And you can see how fortunate I am, what a lucky man I am, to have such a beautiful lady and a wonderful person as my wife. And I want to thank Mayor Bloomberg for allowing us to use Gracie Mansion.
I want to say thank you to the people of New York.
2 years later, in 2004, the Republican Party holds its national convention in New York City. The party is nominating George Bush for a second term. And Giuliani has a prime time speaking spot.
At the time, we believed that we would be attacked many more times that day and in the days that follow. Without really thinking, based on just emotion, spontaneous, I grabbed the arm of then Police Commissioner Bernard Carrick, and I said to him, "Bernie, thank God George Bush is our president."
Giuliani is biding his time. Just 1 year later, his team starts planning for the 2008 presidential run. Here's Matthew Mahoney again.
My job was to get him ready to run for president if he wanted to. That enhanced the business, right? If someone thought he was potential to be president or vice president one day, well, even more reason to be allied with him.
By now, companies like General Motors, JP Morgan, and even Lehman Brothers are paying Giuliani $100,000 to speak. He gives so many speeches in 2006 that he averages one roughly every 3 days. And they earn him $11 million. According to a 2007 article in the Washington Post, Giuliani partners make more than $100 million in the first 5 years of being in business. The money is flowing from all directions.
There's a campaign called Draft Rudy that forms to convince Giuliani to run. A committee registered with the Federal Election Commission raises more than $60 million from donors. Giuliani's star is rising again. He's newly married, he has the financial backing of his firms, and the biggest prize of all seems within reach: President of the United States.
After teasing a presidential bid for months, Giuliani finally commits to the race in early 2007. He announces his bid in a nonchalant interview with Larry King.
Are you running or not?
Yeah, I'm running.
So you're running.
Yeah, I'm running.
What led to the decision?
I think I can make a difference. I believe that the country needs leadership. I think that we're going through a war on terror, or a terrorist war against us, which maybe is a better way to describe it. We've got lots of problems that we have to tackle.
For mayor, Giuliani's pitch was that he took on the mob. And now, to become president, he declares terrorism his new enemy. He's running on the strength of his image as America's mayor.
I've been tested by having to provide leadership through crisis, through difficult crises, not just September 11, but that we remain on offense in the terrorist war against the United States. I think the president got the big decision of his presidency right. The big decision that he made on September 20th, 2001, when he put us on offense against Islamic terrorism.
After a while, it became a gimmick, and America started to take notice, including Democrat presidential candidate Joe Biden.
Rudy Giuliani, there's only 3 things he mentioned in a sentence: a noun and a verb and 9/11.
At the time, the country is beginning to turn against the war on terror. US troops fail to overcome insurgent groups in Iraq. But President George W. Bush doubles down and sends more troops. Giuliani doubles down too on his support for the war.
The major issue today is the terrorist war on us. In fact, it's the major issue for Republicans and Democrats and independents.
And his campaign starts to suffer by association.
Still, this criticism isn't going to stop Giuliani. In the summer of 2007, he's out connecting with voters on the campaign trail.
The only Yankee fan who could draw a crowd in Red Sox Nation this time of year. Rudy Giuliani signed copies of his book Leadership and answered questions at the Red Arrow Diner. The latest poll shows Giuliani's the clear national frontrunner.
Giuliani is a Republican who supports gay marriage and abortion. He jumps to an early lead with the help of support from independents. But he also speaks to the conservative base.
Let's see now. This is my wife calling, I think. Hello, dear. I'm talking to the members of the NRA right now. Would you like to say hello? I love you, and I'll give you a call as soon as I'm finished, okay? Okay, have a safe trip. Bye-bye. Talk to you later, dear. I love you.
Giuliani is charismatic. Voters know his name. And it allows him to sail through much of the initial campaign season. But even with Giuliani's popularity, cracks begin to emerge in his campaign strategy. Here's Matthew Mahoney again.
Where it really started to go south was the team we had put in place in New Hampshire consisted of New Hampshire people and a couple of Rudy Old Guard folks who sounded the alarm every day. We need to be doing more. We need to be doing different things. We're not getting the support that we need for the national campaign. And the national campaign guys saying, we know Iowa is going to be a bust. Maybe New Hampshire is too. Maybe it's time to rewrite this decades-old story.
Why does any campaign care about Iowa and New Hampshire? Well, since the 1970s, these 2 states are the first to vote in the Republican primary calendar. They act as a litmus test for wannabe presidents. They don't always predict who will win the primaries, but they prove if the candidate has popular support. Maybe even enough support to win the whole race. But he doesn't do that. Instead, his campaign sets its sights on Florida.
So Rudy Giuliani's campaign was a little strange. Rudy Giuliani was counting on New Yorkers in Florida who had lived through his time as mayor, who had a good memory of his mayoralty. So he was banking on that.
That's Juan Manuel Benitez. He's a New York City-based political reporter and a professor of local journalism at Columbia University. He covered Giuliani's presidential campaign in 2008.
Rudy Giuliani thought that his best bet was going to be Florida. He didn't invest time or money on Iowa or New Hampshire, and he waited and waited.
Rudy Giuliani has spent more time in Florida than any other candidate, but he says he still needs a little more time for his message to catch on. With the state's January 29th primary approaching and new polls showing Giuliani's support dwindling, time may be running out.
Giuliani's bet doesn't pay off.
He was a distant third. He only got 15% of the vote, which every single one of those votes was a really expensive proposition after the huge investment he made.
Instead, John McCain wins the Florida primary.
Most people got drunk. Most of the staff, they were basically all in one big hotel suite getting bombed. But it was, it's depressing. We knew right then and there that Florida was the last stand we were hoping.
After doing so poorly in Florida, Giuliani's campaign had little hope for surviving. And so, he drops out of the race.
So I am very proud to endorse my friend and fellow Republican, a hero, John McCain of Arizona, for President of the United States of America. God bless you, John.
Rudy Giuliani had aimed for the highest office and lost. And even though the campaign is over, it's in debt. $2.4 million. Giuliani works off that debt, while elections come and go. He rules out running to be the next governor of New York State, and 2 years later, he rules out running for the White House again in 2012.
Years go by. Giuliani's popularity fades. Google searches for his name plummet. Until 2015. President Barack Obama is now nearing the end of his second term. Giuliani is at a private fundraiser in New York City for Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker, who's running in the 2016 presidential race. Politico reporter Darren Samuelson is covering the fundraiser. He breaks the news about something Giuliani says at the event. Something that puts him at the center of media attention for the first time since he dropped out some 8 years ago.
Rudy Giuliani says this: I do not believe, and I know this is a horrible thing to say, I do not believe that the president loves America. He doesn't love you, and he doesn't love me. He wasn't brought up the way you were brought up, and I was brought up through love of this country.
The comment is immediately picked up by news anchors and debated by pundits.
A firestorm over what the former mayor of New York City said about President Obama.
Giuliani. It's like he says this stuff to get a reaction. It actually reflects more poorly on him than it
shows
does
how
on
desperate
the
he
president.
is.
As a citizen, he can say whatever he wants, but as a leader, he was America's mayor after 9/11. And God bless him for what he did after 9/11.
But I look at him differently now as a citizen. Right. I look at him differently. Yes, he has a free right to say that. Right. But now I look at him as much more desperate and a man deserving of less respect after saying something like that.
He'd been out of power a while, and you start to suck up to power, right? You drink the Kool-Aid.
That's Tom Davis again, the retired congressman.
At that point, the money runs out after a while. People, you're not the new thing in terms of attracting clients. The speeches decline. You're looking for relevance. You see that opening.
And that opening is about to get even bigger. Scott Walker does not win the Republican nomination that year. Donald Trump does. Giuliani throws his support behind him.
Donald Trump's not a perfect man. Thank God. I think there was only one perfect man. Some people think they're perfect, but they should see a psychiatrist. They need help. But he is a man who learns from his mistakes, grows from his mistakes, and has been able to do things, and I've watched him do it, that nobody else can do.
When he saw the magic that Trump brought on the campaign trail, that he wanted to be part of it, while other people that came out of more moderate and swing constituencies or down were running the other way. I think he saw the value to himself and maybe to the country that maybe this guy is somebody worth working for.
Giuliani and Trump go back more than 25 years, at least up to 1989, when Trump co-chaired a Giuliani campaign fundraiser. They had attended each other's third weddings. Trump had donated to Giuliani's campaigns in the past. And now, Giuliani was campaigning for Trump.
It's time to make America one again. One America! What happened? What happened to? What happened to? There's no black America. There's no white America. There is just America. What happened to it? Where did it go?
And when Giuliani speaks at the Republican National Convention in 2016, he reminisces about his time as mayor.
I know we can change it because I did it by changing New York City from the crime capital of America to the safest large city in the United States. What I did for New York, Donald Trump will do for America.
Giuliani backs the winning horse. Trump beats Hillary Clinton in an upset. After the election, Giuliani is briefly considered for a cabinet role as a Secretary of State. But within weeks, questions begin swirling about the integrity of the election.
Calls for an independent prosecutor to look into the ties between Russia and the president's campaign growing louder tonight.
This comes amidst growing calls for an official investigation from both sides of the aisle. A prominent Republican calling for a special prosecutor and that the Attorney General should recuse himself.
In 2018, the Russia investigation is heating up. Trump is in need of a new lawyer, and he turns to someone who he knows from his New York days.
Pamela, you're also learning that there may be a very high-profile new member of the president's legal team.
That's right. We are learning that Rudy Giuliani, the former mayor in New York City, a longtime ally of President Trump, will now be joining the legal team, the president's legal team, along with two other...
It may look like Giuliani is on his way up again, but it will be the beginning of a long downfall. At around the same time that Giuliani joins the Trump team, Judith Nathan, his wife of 15 years, files for divorce. Less than a month into working for Trump, Giuliani gives an interview to Sean Hannity on Fox, where he slips up some less than flattering information about his client. His client, who is denying making hush money payments to an adult film star during his 2016 campaign.
Having something to do with paying some Stormy Daniels woman $130,000, I mean, which is going to turn out to be perfectly legal. That money was not campaign money. Sorry, I'm giving you a fact now that you don't know. It's not campaign money. No campaign finance violation. So
they funneled it through the law firm.
Funneled through the law firm, and the president repaid it.
In that interview on national television, Giuliani admits that Trump did in fact pay the hush money to Stormy Daniels, an admission that would prove costly down the line. A New York jury would later find that Trump broke the law by hiding the hush money payments to Daniels. The case would turn him into the first president convicted of a felony. In another attempt to take the spotlight off Trump and Russia, Giuliani tries to bring into focus the Biden family's dealings in Ukraine.
And in this case, both the Washington Post and the New York Times say they followed Rudy Giuliani's money to show that he was trying to really negotiate a lucrative consulting deal with the government of Ukraine, while he was at the same time urging the top prosecutor there to look into Joe Biden and Hunter Biden.
The Ukraine saga would eventually result in Trump's first impeachment in late 2019. But it's not until 2020 that Giuliani displays his unwavering loyalty to Donald Trump.
In 2020, Trump loses his second presidential election to Joe Biden. But within hours of the polls closing, Trump declares himself the winner and demands vote counts be stopped.
This is a fraud on the American public. This is an embarrassment to our country. We were getting ready to win this election. Frankly, we did win this election.
Through legal challenges, Trump launches a campaign to overturn the results of the election. Giuliani helps lead many of those challenges. As Republicans begin contesting the outcome, Giuliani emerges as a central voice. He speaks at a press conference at the Four Seasons. No, not the fancy hotel chain, a parking lot of a landscaping company in suburban Philadelphia.
Thank you for coming. So I'm here on behalf of the president to describe to you the first part of a situation that is extremely troubling.
This is outrageous. An enormously important contest with a very, very suspect method of voting.
On January 6th, 2021, Giuliani takes the podium on the National Mall in Washington, D.C.
I'm willing to stake my reputation. The president is willing to stake his reputation on the fact that we're going to find criminality there. Let's have trial by combat.
Later that morning, hundreds of Trump supporters breach the Capitol building, trying to disrupt the certification of Joe Biden's victory.
Still, Trump leaves office, and Joe Biden is sworn in. For Giuliani, there's a reckoning.
Accountability may be coming for some of the people who helped promote the big lie about the 2020 presidential election. Dominion Voting Systems is suing Donald Trump's personal lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, for defamation and is asking for $1.3 billion in damages.
Rudy Giuliani was disbarred temporarily, with permanent disbarment likely.
From America's mayor to disgraced attorney, a panel recommends that former Trump advisor and New York mayor be disembarred in Washington.
With all this, Giuliani becomes a laughingstock.
Sacha Baron Cohen is back with his signature style of political satire. The scene in question shows Giuliani after an interview in a hotel room with a 24-year-old actress playing Borat's teenage daughter. Giuliani appears to take off his microphone and then lays down on the bed and puts his hands in his pants for a few seconds. The whole thing recorded by what seemed to be hidden cameras.
The president's attorney, Rudy Giuliani, held a press conference today continuing to stick to his unfounded claims that there was massive voter fraud in the election.
Rudy Giuliani getting hot under the collar today.
I don't know what you need to wake you up.
He was sweating so much his hair dye was running down his face.
As we've retraced his life, we kept hearing the same thing. Giuliani is not the person he used to be. Once a man so determined by right and wrong, so deeply religious that he nearly became a priest, and so interested in moral codes that he became a lawyer. This is the man who participated in a lie so significant it led to an insurrection and shook the foundations of American democracy. Today, Rudy Giuliani hosts his own podcast.
Good evening, this is Rudy Giuliani, and this is America's Mayor Live.
After years of defending the big lie, Giuliani continues to face legal action. In 2023, Giuliani lost an $148 million defamation lawsuit against 2 election workers in Georgia. It forced him to file for bankruptcy.
He's even facing felony charges under the RICO Act, which you heard about in the 3rd episode, the very act he used to put mobsters away in the 1980s. He has been forced to sell off his classic Mercedes, his luxury watches, and his favorite sports memorabilia, rings commemorating the Yankees winning the World Series.
The reality is, I have no cash. It's all tied up. So right now, if I wanted to call a taxi cab, I can't do it. I don't have a credit card. I don't have a checking account. I have no place I can go take cash out except a little bit that I saved, and it's getting down to almost nothing.
This episode was reported and produced by me, Hope Talbot.
And me, Deep Vakil. Joanne Farian is our executive producer and professor. Peter Leonard and Rachel Quester are our co-professors. Additional editing help from Astha Chaturvedi. Shulada's theme music, Squeegees, is by Ben Lewis, Doron Zunes, and Camille Miller, remixed by Peter Leonard. Other music is by Blue Dot Sessions.
Our Season 6 graphic was created by Emily Sawakid. One of the sources in this episode is Giuliani, The Rise and Tragic Fall of America's Mayor by Andrew Kurtzman. Special thanks to Andrew Kurtzman, Stuart Carl, Dale Maharaj, and Sydney Memelas.